So we're going to start by bringing you the classified results from football, rugby and hockey across the Isle of Man. They are as follows, starting with football. The GH Corlett Woods Cup quarter-finals. Governors Athletic 2, Douglas and District 1, after extra time. Onchan 2, Foxdale 3. Michael United versus Douglas High School Old Boys, awaiting result. Maloo 3, Colby 4, after extra time. The Canada Life Men's Premier League. St George's 0, Laxey 4. Moran 0, Union Mills 3. St Mary's 1, St John's 1. Corinthians 1, Russian United 1. Peel versus Ayr United abandoned in the second half. Ramsey versus Braddon awaiting result. In DPS Limited Division 2, Pulrose 2, Castletown 8. Gyms versus Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys awaiting result. In Canada Life Combination 1, Braddon versus Ayr United awarded as a walkover to Ayr United, Braddon unable to field a team. St John's United versus Russian United awaiting result. In DPS Limited Combination 2, Foxdale 3, Michael United 6. Colby versus Gyms awaiting result. Douglas Athletic versus Douglas High School Old Boys postponed due to an unfit pitch. And Douglas and District versus Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys awaiting result. Turning now to the results in Isle of Man rugby today. The Manx Cup. Vagabonds 10, Ramsey 10. And in the Manx Shield, Southern Nomads 66, Western Vikings 33. Turning now to hockey. The Ladies Premier League. Vikings A 2, Backers A 3. Harlequins A 0, Valkyries A 4. Castletown B 2, Castletown A 8. In the Men's Premier League, Castletown A 5, Backers B 4. Backers A 2, Vikings A 1. Valkyries A 2, Harlequins A 3. In Ladies Division 1, Castletown C 0, Valkyries B 4. Ramsey A 1, Vikings B 1. Backers C 1, Backers B 11. In Men's Division 1, Castletown B versus Vikings C awarded as a walkover to Castletown B, Vikings C unable to field a team. Harlequins B versus Valkyries B, a late result. Vikings B versus Ramsey A, also a late result. In Ladies Division 2, Valkyries C 0, Harlequins B 6. Castletown E 1, Castletown D 5. Ramsey B 3, Vikings C 0. In Men's Division 2, Valkyries C 4, Backers D 2. Backers Colts versus Castletown C is a late result. In the Under-15s League, Valkyries 8, Vikings 0. And Backers versus Harlequins is a late result. Well, that concludes the classified results so far for Isle of Man football, rugby and hockey, Saturday the 24th of February 2024. You may notice there are a couple of outstanding results across football and hockey. If you do have details of those, please do text us in 166177. Well, we are awaiting the arrival of our football correspondent, Tony Mepham, who's been out and about today over at the game between Peel and Ayr United in the Canada Life Men's Premier League. Before we have his arrival, we also have to bring you the news that in the football that we will be bringing you live draws. We anticipate to bring you live draws as well of the semi-finals of the GH Corlett Woods Cup and also the latest cup draw in the Masters competition as well. All of that is to come, but first off, we're going to turn our attention to rugby, and a slightly less busy schedule given the Six Nations currently on at the moment means that the English Club Championships are taking a break across the divisions, meaning Douglas, Vagabonds and Vagabonds Ladies are without a game this weekend and have the chance to have a little bit of a rest. But nevertheless, we still have two games taking place in domestic competition. The first tie of the 2024 Manx Cup taking place early today at Ballafletcher, and also action in the Manx Shield as well. So high time that we bring in our rugby correspondent Dave Christian to take us through what's been going on today. So Dave, first off, we'll start with the Manx Cup. A close scoreline there, of course. Vagabonds 10, Ramsey 10. A bit of a shutout and quite a rare result, I suppose, when it comes to rugby union. What can you tell us about the game today so far?
Well, you're right, Rob. It's a very rare result. Games between Ramsey and Vagabonds never fail to disappoint. This one didn't, apart from the 10-10 final scoreline, which really pleased neither side. It was very difficult. You could see the players at final whistle. Almost, you could see all the shoulders collectively drop. It was so close and so tight. Ramsey started at a million miles an hour. They were 10-0 up in 10 minutes. A couple of back moves saw left wing Danny Howard use his pace wide on the outside. The first one came from a set scrummage. The Vagabond scrummage was dominant this afternoon, as it has been for most of this season. And Ramsey struggling to get the ball out the back. When they did get it out, they shipped it left to Danny Howard, and he just went round the outside of Josh Moden and scored in the corner. And it took a little bit of effort from him as well, because from the set scrum, the defence was already in position. This wasn't broken play. He had to beat 3 men to get over the line. So it was a cracking opening score for him. 10 minutes in, lead was doubled. It was Danny Howard again, this time capitalising on Vagabond's mistake. They punted the ball downfield and they didn't make touch. It was fielded by Ramsey fullback Joey Callow. Joey was straight onto the counter-attack. He managed to get through the first defensive line of Vagabonds, and once he got through, he offloaded off to the left to where Danny Howard was in support, and this time there was no stopping him. There was no cover defence. This was broken field play. Danny Howard, with his speed, excels in those sort of conditions, and nobody could get near him. For Ramsey, Brandon Atchison had to go at both conversions. The first one came back off the upright, and if that had been 2 or 3 inches the other way, we could have had a win for Ramsey there this afternoon. Ramsey did have a penalty chance late-ish in the first half. Pretty much 22 metres out in front of goal. They opted to kick and run, and that perhaps was a mistake, and again, that's come back to haunt them with a tied game. Just as half-time was approaching, you felt Ramsey were in charge of the game, and Vagabonds then finally got hold of the ball, and their forward pack just drove it downfield. And in the end, Ramsey, under a little bit of pressure in their own 22, held onto the ball on the ground. That gave Vagabonds a penalty. Cam Finley knocked that over with the final kick of the first half, and the half-time lead was 10-3, so just 7 points, which was 1 score. At half-time, Vagabonds coach Franzi Gamishes must have worked his magic in the break, because Vagas started the second half much the better of the two sides. They had more possession, they had more territory, and finally, it took them 20 minutes, but finally all that possession and territory took its toll, and it was prop forward Mitch Wells who crashed over from close range to score. Cam Finley added the conversion. That tied the game and set up a final 20 minutes, which everyone thought would be a grandstand finish, but in reality it wasn't. Vagabonds couldn't get over the whitewash at the other end, and Ramsey really struggled to get the hold of the ball. Without possession, their fast backline couldn't do any damage, and in the end they finally broke into the Vagabonds half, got into the 22. They had 2 late penalties which could have snatched them the game. Nathan Robson this time on kicking duty, and unfortunately he missed both of them. So that was the final of the scoring opportunities. Vagabonds managed to keep their defensive line clear and weren't able to mount a successful attack at the other end. It's going to be a bit of a conundrum for these two now, because there are only 3 league fixtures in this phase of the cup competition. All the teams play each other once, and a draw isn't really going to favour any of them. Pretty certain Douglas are the strongest side. They're probably going to win their 3 matches. So it really is a fight between Ramsey and Vagabonds for that other place in the cup final, and it'll be down to the results of the other matches. If one of them can pick up a bonus point somewhere along the line, that might just give them the advantage, but it's difficult to say. Very early days, but 2 points each is nothing. Well, it's something that neither side really wanted. They'd have much been happier with a win. We don't have a date for the next round of fixtures yet, but we're hearing some rumblings in the background that we might see Vagabonds take on Southern Nomads on the 9th of March. Vagabonds just trying to squeeze those fixtures in on free weekends. It keeps their league side bubbling along, gives them some proper game time, and at the same time reduces the possibility of fixture congestion, which we're probably going to see when Douglas finally get into the competition in around about the 13th of April. Things are going to be pretty tight then. So fair play if Vagabonds and Nomads can get that one on the 9th of March. We'll keep you posted as soon as we know. We'll get it out there. In the Manx Shield this afternoon, there was just the one fixture, and 66-33 to Southern Nomads down at Ballakilya Park against Western Vikings. Vikings picked up a try bonus point for that. That gives them a crucial point in the league standings, and they hold on to their second place. Nomads now in third, just a single point behind Western Vikings. Not too much information as yet on this scoreline. We do know that Harry Goodwin and Harvey Collister have scored for Western Vikings this afternoon, but I've got no more details than that at this stage, and hopefully we'll get that up for manxradio.com and the sports page a little bit later on tonight when the results start to filter through, but just waiting on scorers from Southern Nomads at this moment in time. Fair performance for them though. They've had a little bit of a turmoil recently with two big defeats against Ramsey. They're now back to winning ways, and that result will give them a little bit of a boost ahead of their start of their Manx Cup, which could be in 2 weeks' time.
Just very quickly, Dave, as well, looking at the teams that did have a little bit of a break this weekend as well. Douglas Vagabonds and Vagabonds Ladies, a bit of a chance to rest and recuperate, but going into next weekend, what's maybe on the cards for them?
Well, we're going to find Douglas as they're in a really good position. At the start of the season, they looked like they were going to struggle a little bit, and they've had a little purple patch really since the beginning of December. They had a couple of good results, and that's really boosted them up the table. They were potentially as high as 5th place, and today, well, it's not worked out so well for them, and no game for them, and they're currently lying 8th place. But with a run of fixtures towards the end of the season, potentially, and 2 games in hand, of course, because they had a game postponed against Birkenhead Park last week, they've got the potential to possibly climb up as high as 5th come the end of the season, which, given where they were after, I think, 2 or 3 matches, I think they lost their first 4, in fact, if I'm honest, that give them a little bit of a problem there at the start. Next week, they travel to Bowden, which isn't a good place for them. Bowden currently in 3rd, winning 14 from their 18 starts. But then they have a home fixture on the 9th of March against Kirby Lonsdale. Kirby Lonsdale down near the bottom of the table, so that's a good opportunity for Douglas to pick up some points. For Vagabonds, a little bit different for them. They have a break now until the 9th of March when they're supposed to play Chorley. Now, and we're hearing on the grapevine that Chorley may be conceding this fixture because they're running short of players at this late stage in the season, and that's why we're hoping to switch Vagabonds and Southern Nomads in the Manx Cup for that game. Vaga's got crucial games left, though. They've got to play Ashton-under-Lyne, who are top, and they've got to play Cole and Nelson, who are second. Now, if they can win both of those, Ashton-under-Lyne, Cole and Nelson play each other on the 23rd of March. They could just sneak a promotion place, but much will depend on how the other results go as the season progresses. But free week next week for Vagabonds. Douglas with a tricky fixture away at Bowden, who are very high up in the standings and possibly chasing promotion themselves. Vagabonds Ladies, I hope they get into action next week. In fact, I'm pretty certain it's next week. They should have a home fixture. They've had a run of away games, and those away games haven't really gone well for them in what's appearing to be a rebuilding season. And they lost to topside Liverpool St Helens 96-0 last week. Saturday, the 2nd of March, Vagabonds Ladies are at home. It's the first in a run of home fixtures. They've got Didsbury Tock. Didsbury Tock from the Manchester area. They'll be playing at Ballafletcher on the 2nd of March, and hopefully we'll be there to cover that one for Saturday Live. Coming in the run at the end of the season, they have a game on the 9th of March against Chester Divas, and then the final game on the 16th of March, which is going to be a Super Saturday up there at Ballafletcher. We've got Vagabonds Ladies against Eccles Ladies. And also on the 16th of March, we're going to have the Cheshire Plate final, Ramsey against Western Vikings, and Vagabonds first team are at home that day as well, with a league fixture against Ashton-under-Lyne, the league leaders. So massive day up at Vagabonds on the 16th of March. But that's all coming up, Rob.
Dave Christian, thank you very much, as always.
Manx Radio Sport.
We'll be turning our attention to hockey very shortly, but we're going to take a quick interlude into the footballing side of things. I can confirm that Tony Mepham is in the building here at Broadcasting House, ready to go through the respective results across the Isle of Man leagues and cup competitions. And of course, don't forget, we are planning to do the live draws for 2 cup competitions later in the day. But whilst Tony is crunching the numbers and all the details across from me, we're going to turn quickly to FC Isle of Man. After defeat to the NWCFL Premier Division league leaders last weekend on home soil at the Bowl, they travelled to Kendal Town this weekend, and unfortunately it has been a day to forget in Cumbria for the Ravens. It's now back-to-back defeats and on the wrong end of what has been a heavy 6-1 defeat at the hands of Kendal Town today. Well, to get some reaction and get some thoughts, I'm delighted to be joined by the FC Isle of Man manager Paul Jones. Well, Paul, very good afternoon, but not a great afternoon on the pitch for your side. So just very quickly, a 6-1 defeat, what do you believe went wrong today?
Not a lot went right, to be honest, today, especially in the first 25-30 minutes of the game. We conceded very early and conceded another couple very quickly after that as well. And we were poor. It's probably the worst first half that I've kind of had to endure really since I've been in the role. So it wasn't great at all. There was a better reaction in the second half, but we shouldn't have to wait until that to look a little bit more like ourselves. So as good as we have been in recent games, first half was very much one to forget. And I can only really apologise to the large number of our supporters that travelled to Kendal today, because they've been incredible all day. They've not stopped singing and supporting the players and the team, and the players had no right to have their support really after the first half an hour of that first half. But they've been incredible, and we thank them ever so much for all of their support. And as I say, I apologise for what they had to witness there in the first half.
Well, if we're talking about the first half to forget, conceding 5 goals, yes, you conceded again in the second. What are the positives you feel that you have to take going into the next game, particularly in the second half? Like you say, you felt things marginally improved. Yeah,
they did. We were all over the place really first half, and then players we had 11 individuals on the pitch and not 11 players who were covering spaces and playing as a team. And we got a little bit better at playing as a team in the second half, and the game was kind of won in many ways for Kendal, and we didn't have to do too much. But we created chances and we looked a little bit more like ourselves. But in chasing the game, they were always going to have a few chances in the second half. But I think the positives are the supporters. They were incredible. I think as I say, credit to themselves. It was absolutely fantastic. The fact that Dan Hattersley got some good minutes in his kind of debut game. The fact that we got Tiernan Garvey back on the pitch to get some minutes, and Connor Birch as well, who's missed a lot of football for a variety of reasons. And they're good positives. And Harley Jackson, who came onto the pitch at the end, a young 17-year-old lad who it was a shame he had to come on in such a performance, but he was exceptional when he came onto the pitch and showed the heart and desire and quality really that we should have seen from the more established players from the first minute of the game. So there are some positives there to look hard enough, but it's very difficult to look past that kind of first 30-35 minutes really, when we just weren't at the races and we didn't do anything that we'd planned to do, and certainly didn't put a very good performance in at all, and deserves what we got in the end.
Is it a reminder, do you think, that your team and just the club as a whole still has a long way to go if it really does want to be pushing for a way out of this division in the near future?
Yeah, yes. It's a big reality check where nobody can come into a game expecting just to turn up and put a performance in, and as good as we were for large parts of the game against Bury last week, we didn't get anywhere close to that in the first half today, and you can't have that inconsistency even at this level of football. A reasonably good team will find you out, and I don't think I'd be wrong in saying Kendall didn't have to create very much in order to cause us problems in that first half an hour. We created them all ourselves, and that's a lack of focus and concentration and application and commitment to what we're trying to do. That it's easy to turn up against Bury and do that, but it's got to be done every week over 46 games in a season. And today we haven't turned up, and enough players haven't turned up with the right mindset and the right qualities and the right kind of resilience to put a performance in, and you're going to get found out at this level of football if that happens, and that's exactly what we did. And although we had a reasonably decent reaction, you shouldn't need to concede 5 goals for that to happen.
And just one very quick question before we let you go. We heard that quite big revelation before the game kicked off that Dean Pinnington wasn't in the squad this weekend. He hadn't travelled because, as you say, he's been approached by another club. Is there any particular detail or insight you can impart on us all around that situation?
No, not really. There's been a 7-day approach for him, which we waived because it seems on the face of it a really good opportunity for him, and it's only right that he explores that, and we fully support him exploring that opportunity and hope that it can come to fruition. Dean's come to the club having fallen out of love with football a little bit over a period of time, and he's found his love for the game. We've supported him through that, and he's got evident qualities that it doesn't really surprise us that other clubs are looking at how they can include him in their plans. So part of our club is about providing a platform and showcasing Mank's talent, and it is one of the things we hope will happen more in the future, where our players move on, and if that happens for Dean in this instance, then fantastic. The club's working, isn't it? And if it doesn't, and he decides he's better off playing for us on the Isle of Man for the next little while, then fantastic. We keep an excellent player for the team. So we don't have anything else, I don't think, to share at this moment in time. We're going to let Dean take as much time as he needs to explore the opportunity that he's been offered, and hopefully he can make that work, and if he can't make that work for whatever reason, then we look forward to continuing to work with him. He's such a positive, enthusiastic, dedicated young man to the game, and he's fantastic to have around. And whoever, whether that's also a club off Ireland that has the privilege of having him in their squad, then he'll always give 110% for everybody. So yeah, that's it really. I'm sure if anything happens one way or the other, then we'll communicate that to people. But it was only fair to be open and honest as well in terms of why he wasn't in the squad and why he dropped out the squad, which is what we did. And the players and everybody in the club was kind of aware of the situation, but I think it was important to nip anything in the bud. If he wasn't involved and people saw that he hadn't travelled, then we just wanted to keep everybody abreast of the situation.
Paul, thanks very much for a couple of minutes of your time, and wishing you and the rest of the team a safe journey home.
Cheers, Rob. Thanks ever so much.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, we're now going to turn our attention to hockey, and after a break last weekend to mark the halfway point of the men's and ladies campaign, fixtures got back underway in earnest across the divisions from late this morning and throughout this afternoon. Some key battles once again in this crucial second half of the season across the divisions, and we're joined right now by our hockey correspondent Ben Cunningham. Ben, very good evening to you.
Very good evening to you, Rob. Some big results to go through to this evening.
Indeed there are. Well, let's dive straight into it then. We've still got a packed show, and just coming up to 5:30 at the moment. So let's take a look at the Ladies Premier League. 3 games taking place there today. We had one of the big ones, Vikings A up against Backers A. Vikings A, the unbeaten league leaders, coming up against their rivals Backers A at King William's College at 12:05 this afternoon. And maybe a bit of a shock to the system here for the league leaders, Ben, because Vikings A, they've lost out to Backers A by 3-2, their first loss of the season.
Yeah, first loss of the season, and it's quite a big loss because we'll go through the results and then I'll give you the league table as it stands after today's results for the Ladies Premier League. Yeah, but a massive result there for Backers. Sam Hassel with 2 and Emma Corty with 1, and then for Vikings it was Molly Wheeler and Sarah Blackman.
And then taking a look at the game that's pushed back at 12:30 at the NSC. That was Harlequins A up against Valkyries A. And Valkyries A, a comprehensive performance here, Ben, beating Harlequins A by 4-0.
Yeah, big result there. I knew Harlequins had a few players missing today due to, of course, being half-term and that. But I think most teams as well have had this issue this weekend. Jess Loader, Ellen Cleater, Emily Kelly and Becky Pate all were goals each for Valkyries.
And rounding off the Ladies Premier League today, saw a Southern derby taking place at Castle Rushen High School. Castletown B up against Castletown A, and the A team coming out on top here, showing why they are the A team up against a Castletown B side who clearly put up a good fight in this game. Castletown A winning over Castletown B by 8-2.
Yeah, great result there for Castletown A. Of course, Castletown B still looking for points, so big task ahead of them now. Ashley Lynch and Hannah Ashton Foster for Castletown B, and then for Castletown A, it was Hannah Leese, Amy Sellers, Sarah Farragher, Helena Allen, Evie Watterson, Ruby McCubbin, and Dulcie Tier. And looking at the league table now, Vikings' loss is a big loss because they've now dropped to third place on goal difference. So the top three are all level on points, and it's goal difference that separates.
Very close indeed, then.
It separates them. So now Valkyries A are top, with Castletown A second, Vikings A third, Backers A fourth, Quins fifth, and Castletown bottom.
Could have one brilliant title race in the remaining weeks, couldn't we? Well, let's
Absolutely.
move to the men's Premier League, where it was some equally important ties at the top of the respective table there. But we'll start with a key battle lower down, I should say, in the men's Premier League. Castletown A up against a Backers B side struggling for points, but they've put in a very respectable performance against the Castletown A side, who over previous seasons have shown that they can provide a shock or two to some of the big boys in this particular league. Castletown A, they did come out on top against Backers B today, but really not by much, Ben. This seemed an entertaining game. Castletown A 5, Backers B 4.
Yeah, and Backers B will be definitely annoyed they didn't get the result when they hear the other result of their closest competitor. But yeah, for Castletown, 5-4, they've just clinched it there. Alistair Ledridge with 2, Steve Ronan with 2, and Matty Gorey with 1. And then for Backers, it was Doug Quayle with 3 and Gareth Nichols with 1. But a massive result there for Castletown, and one that Backers are going to regret hearing all the other results.
And then a huge game at the top of the men's Premier League, King William's College from 1:30 p.m. today. That saw the rivals Backers A and Vikings A facing off. Vikings A unbeaten at this going into this game, at the top of the league as well. Backers A with Valkyries A as well, both trying to claw points back. And this could blow the title race wide open, Ben, because Backers A have beaten Vikings A by 2-1. Vikings A's first defeat of the season, and Backers A closed the gap.
Absolutely. And yeah, another Vikings team who were unbeaten and no longer unbeaten. Macklin Wilson for Vikings A, and it was Shea Christian and Kean Ledridge for Backers A, but a massive result there for Backers, one that they definitely needed. And we'll look at the league table when we say the next result, because that's a massive result as well.
Indeed it is. Valkyries A up against Harlequins A at the NSC from 2 o'clock today. Valkyries A, who were locked level on points with Backers A going into this weekend, and maybe hoping that Vikings A would have a slip up, and indeed they have. But Valkyries A, Ben, they haven't been able to capitalise. Stunned, really, by Harlequins A here. Valkyries A 2, Harlequins A 3.
Yeah, and of course Valkyries we're hoping that Vikings would slip, and they've slipped. But then at their own expense, Valkyries have slipped themselves. So Sam Moffat with 2, and then Sam Moffat with 2 for Valkyries A, and then for Harlequins it was Tom Hurd, Ronan Santanatolio, and Oren Blakemore. So we look at the league table now in the men's Premier League. Vikings A, even though they lost today, will still remain top, but they are now only 1 point clear of Backers A. So there's a big push now towards the end of the season. So a lot riding on that game. Valkyries, though, they have dropped now below Castletown A. Castletown A now go above them in third. Valkyries A go fourth on goal difference, level on points with Quins, who are fifth, and then Backers B, who still have not got any points on the board, remain bottom, but now they have got to get a result from the remaining fixtures. Otherwise, it will be relegation for them.
Well, let's quickly take a look through the other divisions. 3 games taking place in Ladies Division 1, 2 of those pushing back at 2 o'clock. The first of those, Castletown C 0, Valkyries B 4.
Yeah, good result there for Valkyries B, one that they knew they had to go and get today. Steph Cottier, Molly Thomas, Abby Callister and May Sar Smith with all goals each.
And the other game pushing back at 2 o'clock, a battle towards the top. Ramsey A1, Vikings B1.
Yeah, and Vikings B, of course, will a point clear of Ramsey A, so it's a big result there for them. Eleanor Cayley for Vikings B and Sarah Busky with a goal for Ramsey.
Not so close in the next game, though. It was Bacchus Derby at King William's College. Bacchus C 1, Bacchus B 11.
Yeah, Interclub Derby and Bacchus B have shown the C team why they are the higher team. Sam Franklin with 4, Sienna Millwall with 3, Penny Webster with 1, Leah Mellor with 1, Ellie Pearson Bass with 1, Iona Bridges with 1, and then for Bacchus C it was I apologise if I get this name wrong, Mackenzie Cubban.
And then looking at men's Division 1, there were 3 games originally scheduled, but only 2 took place. Castletown B versus Viking C was awarded as a walkover to Castletown B. Viking C unable to field a team. But the other 2 games that went ahead, one of them was a late pushback, 3:30. Harlequins B 1, Valkyries B 5.
Yeah, good result there. Valkyries B knew they had to keep winning form up to remain top, and they have done. Steve Cottier with 2, Seb Devereaux with 1, Michael Deal with 1, and Vaughan Batchelor with 1. And then Harlequins' consolation was Corey Corkill.
And one result that we didn't have just at the time, Ben, I'll just check if we have had an update. The other 3:30 pushback, Vikings B versus Ramsey A.
We have got a score in. Vikings B 0, Ramsey A 2. So that keeps Ramsey A in contention now with Valkyries B, who I think they play not next week, the week after. So a big game coming up there. Alex Neal with 1 and Nat Smith with 1.
Very well. Then into Ladies Division 2. Valkyries C 0, Harlequins B 6.
Yeah, good result there for Harlequins. They knew they needed to get this to keep their position in second place and to keep the pressure on Castletown D, who will remain top following their result, which we'll come to shortly. Lucy Passy with 2, Ella Blakemore with 1, Kerry Leanne with 1, Molly Dennett with 1, and Gemma Quayle with 1.
And then we have Castletown E1, Castletown D5, a Castletown derby.
Yeah, Castletown derbies are always good fun ones, and this one has lived up to it. For Castletown E, it was Millie Shaw, and then for Castletown D, it was Alina Wiseman with 2, and Sophie Python with 3.
And the other game in Ladies Division 2, Ramsey B 3, Vikings C 0.
Isla Kane with 2, and Abigail Harvey with 1, giving the Northerners a good result there.
And in Men's Division 2, just the 2 games. We'll start off with the early pushback that was at 11. Valkyries C4, Bacchus D2.
Yeah, good result there for Valkyries C. I think now that moves them up to second now in place of Bacchus D, who were second going into this game. Mike Fowles with 2, Julian Belando with 1, and Dan Leonors with 1. And then for Bacchus D, it was Dave Cowley and Dave Neal with 1 each.
And rounding off the senior leagues in Men's Division 2, Bacchus Colts 2, Castletown C3.
Yeah, big result here for Castletown C because they were bottom and Bacchus Colts were top. So big result. They've beaten the league leaders in this league. For Castletown, I have no scorers, so if you could text them through 166 177, that'd be brilliant. Otherwise, for Bacchus Colts, it was Doug Quayle and Alex Stewart.
And last but certainly not least, 2 games in the Under-15s League. We'll start with a comprehensive win for one side between Valkyries and Vikings. Valkyries 8, Vikings 0.
Yeah, Valkyries Under-15s are looking really strong this season. Ryan Thomas with 2 and Liam Harrison with 6 goals. So a good day's work there for Liam Harrison.
And rounding off the Under-15s League, the late pushback was at 4:30 Bacchus Harlequins. Have you had any update on that game so far? It is still ongoing.
It's still ongoing. Unfortunately, I haven't had anything through, but Tony's hired me to do some draws. So if I get anything through when we do the draws, I'll let you know.
Brilliant. Ben, for the meantime, thank you very much indeed.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, after so many of the stories and stats having to be compiled throughout this show so far, we can now turn our attention to the Isle of Man Football League's a huge game in the title race in the Canada Life Men's Premier League taking place during today. And of course, 8 remaining going into Saturday in the GH Corlett Woods Cup. Since you last joined us on the classified results that we'd had so far, Tony Mepham has been ringing his contacts and finding out where those other results are. Thank you so much for sending in those, and also to Tony as well, and the others at the other end for getting in touch and getting all of those other results in. So we're going to start very quickly with the GH Corlett Woods Cup quarterfinals, Tony. 4 games taking place today. 2 of those went to extra time, in fact, and that's where we're going to start with. Governors Athletic up against Douglas and District. Both could not be separated, 1-1 after 90 minutes, but Governors Athletic snatching it in extra time by 2-1.
A fantastic result for Governors, and I think that's Governors' actual first semi-final, so well done to everyone that's worked hard on there. And said to you at lunchtime, the way things have been going for them, they've been able to find people that could score goals, and they've been so committed to it. And it was 1-1. I think went into extra time, and the winner was scored in that sort of extra time period. But it was an own goal, and Kyle Jackson were the 2 goal scorers for Governors Athletic. For Douglas and District, Adrian Skabucha got the goal. And I've had a report in. I won't read it out because it's just one of those. But great result for Governors Athletic, and they're into the draw for the semi-finals later on.
Yeah, we're going to have to fire through these results, I think, if we're going to get those draws in. So let's get right into them. One that didn't go to extra time, Onchan versus Foxdale, 2 of the Titans of Division 2 at the moment. Foxdale just about edging out Onchan by 3-2.
Yeah, and I think it was down to Foxdale taking a 2-0 lead, and Jason Charmer got both the goals. Aaron Christian got one, and then he got sent off. So Onchan were down to 10 players. Adam McCulloch pulled a goal back, but Jay Chatwood it was who got the winning goal. And congratulations to Jane Ann, who's a lady referee. Excellent performance by her. And it's Foxdale go through 3-2 winners.
And then Michael United, one of the front runners in Division 2, they were hosting Douglas High School Old Boys, and big result for Old Boys here against Michael United on Michael United turf here. No easy feat in Division 2 here. Old Boys progressed. They've beaten Michael United by 5-2.
Yeah, I think what it cost Michael was Jordan Cowan getting sent off. So it was 2-2, I think, going into extra time. Old Boys did really well. Andrew Ward with a goal. I've got a question mark on that one because I've got Nick Bass as well, so we'll let them sort that one out. Danny Gallen got a goal, Robbie Ward, Craig Stewart and Lee Gartland. So terrific result that for Douglas High School Old Boys.
And the other game, the quarter-finals, was a cracker down south between Maloo and Colby. This change of venue over to Station Fields at Colby at the last second. Maloo's pitch deemed unfit, but the 2 teams working together to get the game on over at Colby. So full credit to both teams getting the game on. And what a game it was as well. Both locked level after 90 minutes, but Colby emerging 4-3 winners after extra time, Tony.
Yeah, well done to Colby. If you could text us through the scorers, both teams, please, because it'd be nice to give the boys a mention. But by all accounts, I think Colby must have been leading most of the way, but Maloo clawed themselves back into it. Well done to them, and just finished up with a sneaky 4-3 win for Colby.
Okay, let's take a look at the league fixtures, starting with the Canada Life Men's Premier League. We'll start over at Glencrutchery Road. St George's 0, Laxey 4. And
first goal for Laxey, I think, was Tom Cowan. Dave Reynolds got a goal. Ben Wazza and Eric Hill, I think that's his first goal for Laxey's first team. So well done, Eric. Congratulations on that one. And St George's still looking for some more points on the board.
And then a crucial game over at the Memorial Playing Fields between Moran and Union Mills, 2 teams battling away at the bottom of the table at the moment, and a big 3 points and 3 goals as well for Union Mills. Moran 0, Union Mills 3.
Well done to Union Mills. They're a great club. They work hard, and unfortunately for them, the results haven't been going well. Changed the manager halfway through the season, and Ryan Kelly's come in, and he's got something to talk about now. So well done, Ryan. Jack Murray it was with 2 of the goals. Luke Booth got the first one. Cracking result that for Union Mills, and it just releases a bit of pressure, because when you look at the bottom 2 of that Canada Life Premier League, it's Union Mills now on 11 points, so 3 points clear of Moran, but Brad and St George is still down there with them.
And the early kick-off in the Premier League between St Mary's and St John's, ending all square in the end. St Mary's 1, St John's United 1.
Chris Aspridge got the goal for St Mary's. For St John's, it was Dean Leese, and Luke Murray, man of the match, and that's all the information I've got.
And the same scoreline over at Bella Fletcher separately between Corinthians and Rushden United. One apiece between the two and a point each.
Yeah, Corinthians led the game for quite a while. Josh Kane, it was, who got the goal for Corinthians. But then Matty Lamb got the equaliser. I think it was in the second half. 1-1 it finished.
And then one game hugely anticipated this weekend, the battle between the top two in the Canada Life Men's Premier League leaders. Peel up against Ayr United, who went into this weekend just 3 points behind Peel, but with 2 games in hand. They faced off at Douglas Road today. Tony, that match sadly abandoned in the second half. Do you have any details as to why that was the case just at the moment?
Can do. Let's give you the scoreline, how it went first off anyway. It was Ayr United who took the lead. A good start by Peel, but it was Ayr who got the first goal. Harry Best, it was. Good strike, right-footed by him to the goalkeeper's right-hand side, 1-0. And then Louis Morris got one just inside the penalty area, and he finished it off, and it was looking comfortable. But second half, it was roles reversed because Rhys Oates came off the bench, and he scored one from the penalty spot. I think it was a shot, went in, hit the hands of one of the defenders, and the referee Matty Shaw had no choice but to award a penalty. Rhys converted it, 2-1 it was, and then 2 minutes later, the second one went in, and Matthew Woods has been awarded it. I'm not 100% on that one. So 2-2 it was. Then with about 4 minutes to go, serious injury to Ayr's player, Harry Weatherall. Not good. So the game was abandoned, and the right decision by the referee as well. You can't continue after something like that. And thanks for the ambulance getting down when they did, and speedy recovery for Harry. And people keep asking what's going to happen with this game now. The FA will look at this one because I think it's always nice for the two clubs to have an input on it. So we'll bring you news, but at the moment it's classed as an abandoned game.
Okay, thank you, Tony. And naturally, just to echo your words there, we wish the player concerned there a full and speedy recovery as well. The other game in the Canada Life Men's Premier League was up north between Ramsey and struggling Braddon. And Braddon, although they've missed out again today, gave a good account of themselves against a Ramsey side. We know the strengths that they can possess, but Ramsey ultimately coming away with 3 points. Ramsey 2, Braddon 1.
Yeah, and Ramsey keep working away, and even though it was tight in the end, I think they took a 2-0 lead. Dylan Pickles with one. Sorry, I haven't got the goal score of the second one because it was a new name to me, but Callum Holdham scored again for Braddon. So as long as they keep playing like they are, Rob, you can see Braddon sort of maybe picking some points up here, but they're doing well. That's all we can say about them, but they need to try and get a sneaky win somewhere.
Okay, then we move into DPS Limited Division 2. Just the 2 games there. Of course, 8 Division 2 sides were involved in the Woods Cup quarter-finals today, but 2 games taking place. One of those, Pulrose versus Castletown. Pulrose, it's been a challenging season for them to this point, up against the Castletown side, fighting for promotion, and Castletown coming out on top in this one by 8-2.
Danny Lane got 3 goals. Ollie Shearer got 2. Alex Crawley, Aaron Field and Ash Egan. And it was Callum Dunn who got the first one for Pulrose, and JP Joyce got the second one. I don't think it was long before Castletown started the scoring off. I think the first one went in after 3 minutes. So keeps them sort of mixing it at the top of the table, and a good result for them.
All square in the other DPS Limited Division 2 game. Entertaining game by the sounds of it down at Tramode. Jim's 3, Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys 3. Yeah,
trying to get some information. Goal scorers on that one. Haven't got any at the moment, but that's a great result for Jim's, I think. Point on the board, and it's a great result for them having a game of football, because now that puts
a lot of games to make up at the moment played, as well.
Exactly.
Circumstances.
10 games, so they're going to have a lot of night games coming up, but good battle by both two teams committed to it.
Canada Life Combination 1, only 2 games are scheduled. One of those, Braddon versus Ayr, that was already awarded as a walkover to Ayr United, an away walkover because Braddon sadly unable to field the team. The other game, St John's United and Rush United, that was a score we were waiting on. Tony, is that still the case?
Foxdale against Michael, is that the one you said?
St John's United.
St John's and Russian. Sorry, no,
1.
that one hasn't come through yet.
Very well. If anyone does have that information, please do text in 166 177. Turning our attention to DPS Limited Combination 2. 4 games were scheduled there. One of those, Douglas Athletic versus Douglas High School Old Boys, was postponed ahead of matches starting today due to an unfit pitch. Nevertheless, a 9-goal thriller in the first one on the list here between Foxdale and Michael United. Michael United, the winners, beating Foxdale by 6-3.
Probably expected, to be fair. Haven't got any Michael's goal scorers, but certainly for Foxdale, Dean Bettridge got one. James Moore got a goal as well, and Callum Wade. But, Michael, if you can, please, 166 177.
And elsewhere, Colby 2, Jim's 0.
Yeah, thanks to Dickie Gale, who's just texted through the goal scorers for that one. And the goal scorers for Colby, I think, is Jack Fordham and an own goal. And in the other cup game, the Colby scorers were Carl Hickey with 1, Seb Spears, Jack Skillicorn and Paul Whitley. Thanks a lot, Dickie, for that.
Thank you very much for those details. Last but certainly not least, Douglas and District 4, Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys 2 in combination 2.
2-1 to D&D at half-time, and it was Jacko and Maters who got a goal. Ben Hall got one from the penalty spot. Mark Quirk got a goal, and Dom Quirk got the other one, and that Jackman Mayers it is. That's his first goal for the club, so congratulations to him and D&D.
Time is 13 minutes to 6. So those are the details of the Isle of Man football fixtures across the island today. But we're not done with the footballing side of things. We now have the time to bring you 2 live draws taking place. We have the semi-finals of the GH Corlett Woods Cup. The draw for that's taking place in just a moment's time. And also, we will have the latest cup time, the Masters football as well. So, Tony, we'll start things off with the... we actually, I believe we have... Ben Cunningham is going to be your glamorous assistant again. He is still sat across from me. So, Ben, just to start with, we'll start with the Masters draw. I believe we have 10 teams in the hat for this one. So, Ben, if you could just quickly check that we do have 10 in the bag so far. Tony, could you just quickly explain the format for this?
Yeah, the Masters FA Cup, it's a cup competition in the normal way. So we want 4 teams out of it, Ben. So we want 2 fixtures, and these games are due to be played on the 17th of March. First one.
Number 2.
Number 2 is Colby, and they will play.
Number 9.
Number 9 is Peel, and the second and last game.
Number 6.
Number 6 is Governors Athletic.
Against number 7.
And number 7 is Laxey. So the draw there, Rob, is the first game out of the hat was Colby against Peel, and the second fixture is Governors Athletic against Laxey.
So those fixtures due to be played on the 17th of March. Just had a message through as well, just with regards to that Combi 2 game between Foxdale and Michael United. The goal scorers for Michael, in fact. So it was a hat-trick for Nathan Farragher, a goal for Michael Workman, and also 2 for Chris Payden. So that draw there, Colby versus Peel, Governors Athletic versus Laxey. Either of those stand out in any particular way to you, Tony, at the moment? Or is it difficult to guess at this point?
Masters is... not too difficult because there's 2 teams I think just out on it is Onken against Laxey, and Onken had a comfortable win against Laxey last week, so it does look as if Onken are going to win that league. But let's have a look at the first one, Colby and Peel. They've got both teams have got good players in that, so I would say at the moment I would just edge that towards Colby, depending on what their lineup will be. Governors Athletic, I watched them a couple of weeks ago, Rob, and they're really good. They're good going forward. They're solid in defence, but against Laxey have been a much improved team this year, done really well. So I'm going to go for Laxey to beat Governors in that game.
Okay, well, that is the draw for the opening round of the Masters FA Cup to take place on the 17th of March. We'll now turn our attentions to the draw for the semi-finals of the GH Corlett Woods Cup, the quarter-finals, and some great quarter-final ties today taking place across the Isle of Man. But now, just 4 teams remain. So, Tony, for those who've missed the results just at the moment, could you remind us which teams are in the hat for the semi-finals?
Certainly can, and the teams that are in the hat are Douglas High School Old Boys, Governors Athletic, Foxdale and Colby.
Like I said, we're going to call back in your glamorous assistant, Ben Cunningham, in just a moment.
Well, isn't he?
Ben, could you just confirm as well that we have 4 balls in the bag as well?
We do. We have 4 in the bag.
Excellent. So, Tony, Ben, if you'd like to do the honours and do the draw for the semi-finals of the GH Corlett Woods Cup.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Foxdale.
Number 4.
And number 4 is Governors Athletic.
Number 2.
Number 2 is a home tie for Douglas High School Old Boys.
Against number 1.
And number 1 is Colby. So the 2 semi-finals. The semi-finals are obviously mid-March. I haven't got the exact date, but certainly the final is on Good Friday, so we'll take times on that one. But it's Foxdale against Governors Athletic, and Douglas High School Old Boys will play Colby.
And just taking a look at that particular draw as well, Foxdale have just been going from strength to strength so far this season. I think, Tony, I think you've mentioned before that there were maybe a couple of predictions somewhere that some might see maybe Foxdale dropping off towards as the campaign went on. It just does not seem to be the case. This Foxdale train just keeps going and going. And up against the Governors Athletic side, who tough time in Division 2 last season, but have started to pick up a little bit. I mean, what are the chances Governors Athletic could upset the odds here?
Well, it's at Billy Goat, so the pitch, depending on the weather conditions at that time, might just help them. But Governors Athletic are a change side. They've really sort of worked hard, and whether it's because they're playing on the pitch up at Nobles Park, I don't know. But against Foxdale, it's going to be tough, because I just think at the moment Foxdale are absolutely flying. Great results, and today they've got a good win against a really strong Oncon side, and that takes some doing. So it shows you where they are at the moment in Div 2, and here they are in the semi-final.
And in the other semi-final, it seems to be, if we're looking on paper at least, two sides on slightly different trajectories at the moment, almost. Douglas High School Old Boys, who after a tough start to life in Division 2 after relegation last season, seem to have had a real pickup in results recently. Elsewhere with Colby, a great start to Division 2 life this season, but just haven't been able to quite keep the pace with the likes of Foxdale, Castletown and Michael United up at the top just at the moment. All is not said and done, of course, but just with these two teams almost at a bit of a crossroads in terms of form at the moment, does this set it up for quite an interesting tie at Blackberry Lane?
I think it does, because Colby, I said it last week, that they want some silverware, because when you look at where they were 3 or 4 years ago, struggling for players and teams and stuff, and here they are going really well. New managers come in, and they've played some really good football, but today against Maloo, it was a real sort of struggle for them. They had to work hard, but then on paper, Maloo have got some good players in there. It's getting them out each week. But against Douglas High School Old Boys, I watched them against gyms, and they've a lot of experience in there. Like I believe today, Old Boys goalkeeper got sin-binned, and then Robbie Ward went in goal, and then obviously the keeper comes back on. So they had to sort of work exceptionally hard in that extra time, and they got it through. And just looking at the goal scorers, Craig Stewart, Lee Gartland, Danny Gelling's a really promising young player, Andrew Ward, Nick Bass, they're all sort of been there, got the T-shirt, and against Colby, they'll really fancy the chances, and being at home as well, it'll make for a good game of football.
We've just had another result through as well, that one that we were waiting for that was outstanding in Canada Life Combination 1. It's finished St John's United 0, Russian United 4, Tony. Tony, you've spoken about this Russian United combi side a little bit in the last few weeks, because, of course, that incredible flawless record they had to win the Combination 1 title last season. Bit of a tricky start for them, but you've spoken about that they just seem to have found another gear yet again in the last couple of weeks, and 4 goals and 3 points again today.
Well, it is, and when you look at that now, they go on 34 points and they've played 15 games. When you look at the team above them, St Mary's, who have had a couple of defeats lately, they've played 18 for 35. But the team you got to look out for is Ramsey. Now, Ramsey and Russian have played the same amount of games, 15, but now Russian are only 4 points behind them. And when I looked at Russian's team sheet for the combination, they've got some really good players in there. And they've got plenty of games. They play 22, so there's 7 to play for both teams. So that's going to be a real good battle to watch. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think Russian and Ramsey might still have each other to play.
Well, coming up to 5 minutes to 6, just a couple more questions for both Tony and Ben, actually, just looking to Sunday. Tony, no games taking place in Isle of Man football this Sunday with it being the half-term break, so just for quick clarity, are we planning to see Sunday games return next weekend?
Yes, next weekend. It's half-term. It's one of those difficult ones, Rob, people going away, but this weekend we've kept it sort of clear. And from what I was speaking to, I got information through that some of the hockey teams have struggled this weekend, 4 players away. Is that right?
Yeah, we've had a couple of teams having to pull players up to higher teams, and then that's unfortunately meant that the lower teams have had to concede their games. But I mean, fortunately enough, we've only had 1 game out of all of them this weekend that's had to be awarded as a walkover. So credit to all the teams for getting out teams and that.
Well, Tony Mepham, thank you very much, as always, this evening. Well, very quickly, just before we wrap things up, we'll come back to Ben Cunningham, because the hockey action is resuming tomorrow, and it's in the form of the Isle of Man ladies' national side. They were due to play in the women's, the England Hockey Championships, the Women's Tier 2 Knockout Championship, last weekend away at Liverpool Sefton ladies. Due to travel disruption, they were not able to make that journey for that game last weekend. But, Ben, that has been rearranged, and it's due to take place tomorrow. Yeah, brilliant news that we've managed to get it rearranged so quick. Unfortunately, the ladies, they got to the airport and just nothing was going anywhere, so unfortunately it was game over. No game was going ahead, and we've managed to reschedule it all, and the team are travelling away
tomorrow to hopefully bring back the win and to progress further into the final stages of the tournament.
And just having a quick scout of the squad news that you sent me this afternoon as well. It doesn't appear to be any particular changes to the squad that was due to travel last weekend. And one thing that you pointed out as a real strength of this team potentially, and has been in previous seasons, is that mix, that blend of both experienced players who are used to playing at this level and the younger players starting to learn what it takes to win at this level and compete. Absolutely.
And I mean, we touched on it, like I say, last week, the likes of Kim Carney, Zoe Crow, the names just go on in that selection, which Jamie Brown has picked. And then, of course, they're all the senior players who've played in the Ireland squad in numerous years. But then you've got the likes of Evie Watson, who's a young, up-and-coming talent, and definitely one to watch, and she's definitely going to go far, and she's going to definitely progress in the Ireland team. And I'm really glad that her and all of the players that have been picked have got spots in that Ireland team, because they're going to represent the Ireland really well.
Okay, well, Ben, Tony, thank you very much indeed. And also big thanks, as always, to Dave Christian, our rugby correspondent. And also thanks to Paul Jones, FC Isle of Man's manager, for a couple of minutes of his time after his side's defeat at Kendal Town today. That's all we have time for on Saturday Sport Classified this evening on Manx Radio AM 1368 and digital. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back with Saturday Sport Classified next weekend as usual. But from me and the team, until next time, it's bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.